Welcome to another episode of The Thing About Cancer. Today we are talking to Morven Hamilton, who's been a yoga instructor for several cancer patients and their families. She will be telling us how yoga can help us deal with cancer. Thank you for joining us today, Morven.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with how you got interested in yoga.
Yeah, well, I started practicing yoga when I was about 19 years old, and I was a student at Glasgow University, and I just went along to a yoga class because my friends were going along, and I didn't really have any prior knowledge of yoga. I was just simply going along with them. And I don't even particularly remember what happened in the class, but I remember how I felt when I came out of the class, which was this sort of deep sense of peace and relaxation that I'd never felt before in my life. And so from that moment on, I was really hooked on yoga. And I didn't really understand this at the time, but I was suffering from anxiety and also depression during my late teens and 20s. And that became quite severe at a certain point. And I found that when I was practicing yoga regularly, it became a real factor in helping me to overcome that and helping me to live a life that made sense and where I felt happy and where I was on the right track. And so over the course of about 12 years of practicing, I felt that I'd really got to a place where I felt a calling to share that with other people, and that's when I decided to do my yoga teacher training so I could spread the word about yoga.
Lovely. So you've been a yoga teacher and a yoga teacher trainer for 12 years now, and you have worked with cancer patients and their families. So in your opinion, how does yoga help cancer patients?
Yeah, there are lots of different sort of facets to that question. So starting with the most sort of tangible aspect, which is the sort of physical health. The practice of Hatha Yoga is it's sort of a systemized practice of movement and breath work. And it's these movements and this focus on the breath that helps to move the lymphatic fluid around the body efficiently, and that's the way the body sort of removes toxins. So it's a way that the body naturally sort of detoxes itself. So with our help, we can make that process more efficient. And that's always a factor for anybody who's experiencing sort of cancer treatment. It's really important to be able to detox and bring the body back into balance that way. Yoga practice also has a positive effect on digestive function and respiratory function, on blood circulation. So it's a great practice for supporting all the systems of the body to work in a healthy symbiosis. Another really important aspect that helps people recover from their experience or the impact of cancer is that there's certain yoga practices that actively sort of help to trigger the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's the part of the nervous system which brings us into the sort of rest and digest mode of being. So if we think of that as being sort of the opposite of the fight or flight mode, which is the stress response. So it helps to slow down the heart rate, slow down the breathing, and it helps also to draw the blood supply back to the vital organs. So that's really important for bringing about homeostasis or balance in the body. Lots of people have come to my classes, particularly women who've had breast surgery after having breast cancer. And breast surgery causes a lot of, obviously scarring around the chest area, and scar tissue tends to heal and become very tight. So the stretches that we do in the yoga class will just help to gently stretch out the scar tissue. So many women find after just practicing for a few weeks that they're able to do really simple tasks again, just like fastening a bra strap or using a hairdryer or reversing a car. And that can mean a lot for somebody in their recovery, because each time you're able to recover that, it feels like getting another piece of your life back. And the mental aspect as well, the mental health aspect, is also really significant. And it's been shown recently that yoga helps to overcome depression. It's really common for people who've had a cancer diagnosis to suffer from depression, anxiety, and insomnia. So sometimes all of those things, either short term or long term. And yoga practice has been shown to really help alleviate the symptoms of those things. And then there's the factor of spirit as well. I mean, we all know that yoga is a mind, body, and spirit practice, and a lot of people choose not to take the spiritual path of yoga, but many people find that it does help them to connect with their spiritual self and bring meaning into their life and make them feel sort of part of something greater than themselves, which in itself can be very emotionally healing.
I understand. And a lot of what you do with yoga is connected to mindfulness. So, if you could tell us a little bit about mindfulness and how we can use it in everyday life.
Yeah, sure. Mindfulness, I always describe mindfulness as a practice of making choices. So a mindful life is one that's lived with an attitude of being aware and present and responding to life events as they occur, as opposed to responding just to habitual patterns that are ingrained. And we can practice mindfulness in meditation. Most people sort of train to live a mindful life by practicing meditation. So it's important to understand that the practice is meditation and the attitude is mindfulness. And that the mindful aspect is what we want to bring into our daily lives. Not everybody chooses to practice meditation. Some people choose to cultivate mindfulness in other ways. But in a meditation practice, you're able to become familiar with your own mind and with your own thought patterns. And so you can recognize your own habitual responses and decide which ones are helpful and which ones are unhelpful and which patterns you want to take out into your daily life. For cancer patients, that's really important because there can be times, especially after treatment, a lot of people find that period difficult when they've actually finished their treatment and they're thinking, well, what next? And often there's the fear that cancer is going to come back. During the treatment period, there's the time waiting for scan results. And this is when mindfulness practice can become really, really sort of crucial to maintaining mental health by just living life moment by moment, as opposed to this sort of linear A to B experience where I start here and I end here and there's no control over what happens in between. So mindfulness gives you the opportunity to choose how you're going to be in every moment. And you asked a little bit about living mindfully in daily life. I mean, there are some little things that you can do, and I say little, but they can be really powerful. And one of the mindfulness in daily life practices you can do is just to stop and watch the sky every so often. And another thing you can do is, if you're waiting for the kettle to boil, then just sit and wait for the kettle to boil, or any other task where you would normally be like, oh, well, while that's doing, I'm going to wash the dishes, sweep the floor, check my emails. And another thing you can do is to just eat a meal mindfully. So there's lots of small ways that you can bring mindfulness in your life. Enjoying nature, spend some time in nature every day. And all of these things just help you to connect more to the aspect of being rather than doing, because we're very much sort of do
Yeah.
in the culture that we live in today. And we all need to just sort of pull back from that a little bit and realize that we are.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually. And so, for our viewers who've never practiced yoga before, and now after listening to you, probably they're saying, oh, I might want to give this a try. How do they start? Where do they start?
If you've had a cancer diagnosis recently and you're undergoing treatment, it's really important that you find a teacher who's trained in yoga therapy or trained in yoga for cancer. And if you've been through your treatment and you feel fully recovered, then it should be fine to go into a beginner's course straight away. For those of you out there who might be suffering from anxiety, and then I would recommend seeking out a restorative practice, possibly a yoga nidra or yoga sleep class or a meditation class. So it's not really a one-size-fits-all practice, but it's a good idea to meet the teacher first, find out what the teacher's background is, and if possible, even see the space that you're going to be practicing in. And I would say that especially for those of you who are in the midst of your cancer journey now, it's really important to feel safe and know that you're in safe hands. So the more information you can get about your teacher and the environment that they're teaching in, the better. Another thing that you can do is get hold of a good book, and there are some great books out there on yoga for cancer, and it will just help you to put this type of yoga into the context of cancer, and really understand the background of what you're doing.
And so if they're cancer survivors, if they've completed their treatment recently, are there any positions or are there any things they should avoid when it comes to yoga?
There's no real blanket advice for that because everybody's very different. I mean, some people can go through their cancer journey and feel completely fine all the way through, and they'll be full of energy and they'll be ready to do quite a strong class. And then other people will find that they have a very low physical tone. Everybody experiences their treatment differently. So it's the main things that I will always say to a group are: don't do anything that hurts or aggravates any existing pain, don't do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, and don't do anything that puts strain on your system. And they're the most important things, just to be able to listen to your own body and know when your own body's saying no.
Perfect, yeah. So there's one last thing I want to ask you, since you've met a lot of cancer survivors and their families. Is there any insights in terms of stories or anecdotes where yoga has helped them with cancer in some unexpected ways? Is there something you'd like to share with us?
Well, I've spoken to lots of people who've been coming to my classes over the years, and nearly everybody gets something that they don't expect from their yoga practice. People coming to a yoga for cancer class particularly, they'll often be there because their doctor has suggested yoga as a gentle form of physical exercise. So that's what they're looking for, to just gently get back into physical movement. But many people find that over time that, you know, they find that their relationship with their body image improves a lot. And also they find that their relationships with other people improve a lot as well. And there was one particular student that I had who came to my classes over a number of years. Sadly, she had terminal cancer, and she came as a way of getting back into exercise and just being able to move gently because she had a large tumor. And she got deeper and deeper into the practice, and she started coming to retreats, and she started meditating regularly. And I watched yoga really transform her life and bring her to a place of healing. I mean, she wasn't cured of her cancer, but she came to a real place of acceptance and healing. And that, I think she was probably the last person to expect that to happen.
Yeah.
But when she did finally pass away, very sadly, I think that the yoga had really helped her come to terms with what was happening to her.
That is wonderful, Morven. And thank you for spending the time to share your experience with us. And
my pleasure.
Lovely speaking to you. To recap what Morven shared with us. Yoga helps the body heal scar tissues. It also regulates our breathing and our blood circulation, through which the body enters the rest and digest phase. In this state, it is easier for the body and the mind to relax. Yoga also helps us with mental issues like anxiety and depression. We hope you enjoyed this episode with Morven Hamilton. Please do leave your comments and feedback for us, And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss the next episode of The Thing About Cancer. Thank you for watching.